And here we are, ladies and gentlemen, bright and early at 10 o'clock a.m. in the morning. Reasons being, I got a One Piece reflection later today. Depending on how fast I get through this volume, we may end up doing our One Piece reflections at 12 rather than, 1 o'clock as I have it currently scheduled at. So depending on how well I do, that reflection stream may happen sooner. Of course, if it tends to drag on a little bit, then of course it'll still be at 1. But if I'm quick enough, then we shouldn't have any issues. But let's go ahead and get the formalities out of the way, shall we? Yo, peoples, Kyushu92 here, and welcome back to my continuation of my One Piece read-through series, where I go through every volume of One Piece from the very beginning, all the way up to volume 80. Well, volume 83 is when I'll stop, because volume 82 is the last volume I'll be reading, because I started doing reactions to One Piece at chapter 828. For those who don't know, just giving you a little bit of a recap of why I do what I do. I did my reactions for One Piece at chapter 828. You sure you wouldn't want to take a lunch break? You know what? That's a good point. We can keep that's a good point, Ogata. Let's keep it at 1 o'clock so that way once I get done with this, I have enough time where I can eat some food, and then I can do the reflection stream a little bit later at 1. Thank you. I didn't think of that. I honestly didn't think of, what if I ate something? So thank you. Yeah, we'll stick to 1. But to those who don't know, I'm going through this entire series because I never read the whole story of One Piece chapter per chapter when I initially started One Piece. I started all the way in Punk Hazard, but I never read the beginning all the way through. I've seen moments and I've seen episodes in the anime, but I never read the manga as it was originally intended. So I'm going through all of these in order to fully say that I've read every bit of One Piece. So today we are going to be going through volume 21 of the series titled Utopia. And it should be interesting. We got chapters 187 through 195. So let's go ahead and get the recap all out of the way. But also good to see you, Kohagen and Ogata-san. Hope your days are fantastic. The Story of One Piece, Volume 21. Monkey D. Luffy started out as just a kid with a dream to become the greatest pirate in history. Stirred by the tales of pirate red-haired Shanks, Luffy vowed to become a pirate himself. That was before the enchanted devil fruit gave Luffy the power to stretch like rubber, at the cost of being unable to swim, a serious handicap for an aspiring sea dog. Undeterred, Luffy set out to sea and recruited some crewmates, Master Swordsman Zoro, treasure hunting thief Nami, lying sharpshooter Usopp, the high-kicking chef Sanji, and the latest addition, Chopper, the walkin' talkin' reindeer doctor. On the Grand Line, Luffy and crew struggled to help Princess Vivi save her war-torn and drought-ravaged kingdom from the evil Sir Crocodile and his secret criminal organization, the Baroque Works. Now, the climactic showdown between the rebels and the king's forces is at hand, while Luffy lies half dead in the Alabastan desert following his defeat by Sir Crocodile. The rest of the crew enters Alabarna to help Vivi put an end to the bloodshed. Usopp and Chopper outmaneuver Miss Merry Christmas and Mr. Four in a deadly game of baseball, while Sanji squares off against the eccentric but formidable Mr. Tube on Clay. Will the Straw Hats have what it takes to overcome the best of the Baroque Works? So let's begin. Chapter 187, Stalemate. Hachi's Walk on the Seafloor, Volume 5. Hachi encounters a hungry man, and he then gives this hungry man some food. And it cuts to Koza clashing with one of the members of the Royal Army. And it just shows all of the rebels fighting everyone. Koza! That bullet you took in Nanohana! Every time. Forget that. This is a battleground. I need a horse. I have to get through the center of the city and over to North Block where the palace stands. The palace? What are you going to do? I'm going to give Cobra one last chance to surrender. That's suicide! The North Block will be guarded by the main body of the Royal Army under Chaka and Pell! Our own force isn't at full strength yet, and reinforcements will be here soon. Oh, our own force isn't at full strength yet, and reinforcements will be here soon! There's no need for you to rush in there alone. It may already be too late. Give me a hand! Koza! And then Koza leaps over the wall as he, tries to make his way towards the North Block. Then there's more cannon fire, and there's someone running through the streets. And it's Vivi. You there! Halt! Are you a rebel? This is North Block, the gateway to the palace. What do you think you're doing? And Vivi's just huffing and puffing heavily. All civilians must leave the city at once. Do you hear me, woman? This isn't a playground. And then they all look surprised as Vivi finally lifts her head and they see her face. I know that. Oh! Princess Vivi! Take me to Chaka. There's something I need to do. There's something I need him to do. Alabarna, South Block, Polka Boulevard. Mr. 2, Bon Clay versus Sanji. And it shows a dropped cigarette as it shows Sanji and Bon Clay kicking each other in the face. And they're sent flying in opposite directions. Darn that creep.
Woo, what a kick. He counted my old come my way karate. Get out of my way, you!
If you want to get past, it'll be over my dead body.
You don't stand a chance. I've trained relentlessly, day after day, year after year. That's how I perfected my old come-my-way karate, and it will never be surpassed by the likes of you. Pardon my old come-my-way knuckle.
And then Bon Clay tries to punch Sanji, but Sanji just leans out of the way. And then it cuts to Bon Clay bending his arm around in order to hit Sanji backwards behind him.
You can't escape my fists. Oh, come my way karate, drunken swan swory!
And it cuts to him trying to, jab at Sanji with his, crazy karate gimmicks. We have guns. But he tries to jab at Sanji. I better settle this right now. This guy could go on posing forever. Cool, yeah! And he tries to hit Bon Clay, but Bon Clay blocks it. Epole!
Do!
Kotele te kabash!
Why, you?
Sele de ouch! Poitrine treader! Poitrine treader!
Ooh, do!
Kigo te jolly horse!
Why, you?
And it cuts, they're just clashing with each other as Bon Clay is deflecting Sanji's blows and Sanji's using a lot of his moves. Apologies if I am not pronouncing some of Sanji's moves in the correct French pronunciation. My apologies. But Sanji gets hit.
Oh, come my way karate!
Mutton mallet!
Once! White swan arabesque!
And it cuts to them both hitting each other. And they both get sent, the recoil sends both of them flying in opposite directions. Into opposite buildings. These dudes are durable for them to be just hitting buildings and just going straight through them and getting right back up. That swan countered my mutton mallet.
That petty cook countered my white swan arabesque. This ain't no joke. You done your name, y'all!
And then it cuts to Bon Clay getting up.
Ooh, all right. That does it. Now I'm serious.
Bring it on.
Maybe you don't know of my clone powers.
What's so amazing about it?
What's so amazing about it is the scope of my memory. For example, I can use it to create a montage of parts. And once I've crippled you with laughter, you'll be at my mercy. The world's weirdest head. The world's weirdest eyes. The world's weirdest nose. The world's weirdest mouth.
And it cuts to Bon Clay shifting his face around.
For the first time anywhere, the clone montage.
And then it cuts to Bon Clay shifting his face into different parts. But really, the one part that sticks out the most is Usopp's long nose. But the rest of him just looks the exact same. And Sanji's just standing there staring at him. And they're just standing there silently. And then Bon Clay breaks down. That was 90% you, dude. Is this the first time that Sanji's ever called someone dude? Interesting. Now it's my turn. Playtime's over, clown. And then it cuts to Sanji kicking Bon Clay in the face.
Have you no feelings? Are you made of stone?
I don't have time for your act.
Act? The nerve! This ain't no act. In the past, I fought against one such foe who couldn't bring himself to harm a friend.
So that's your game. Okay, fine. You would stoop that low.
Now just try and attack.
And as he tries to turn into Usopp, Sanji kicks him in the face.
How could you? This is the face of your friend. How could you? What's wrong with you?
No matter how you change your face, you're still you. You're an idiot if you think I'd fall for your goofy illusions. It's what's inside that counts.
The inside? He's so cool.
And then Bon Clay turns into Nami.
Fine. I see that using your friend's faces won't work on you. Huh?
And then Bon Clay looks back at Sanji, and his face is normal again, because he was ogling Nami's face. But then he turns back into Bon Clay, and then Sanji's just stoic. Then turns into Nami, and Sanji is crazy. Then Sanji is just love crazy. Then he turns back into Bon Clay, and Sanji's stoic again, with Bon Clay thinking,
you're so obvious.
And then it cuts to him finally turning back into Nami and going,
fool.
Then we cut to Alabarna Palace. You can't be serious, Princess Vivi. If we do that, it's Princess Vivi.
It is. The princess has returned.
Simpji, pretty much. Simpleg Sanji. She picked a fine time for it.
If we do this thing, what? Will this kingdom come to an end? Of course not. This is not Alabasta, Chaka. All those people hurting each other are Alabasta. As long as they live, the kingdom will live on. We have to stop the fighting, if only for a moment. If we can get everyone's attention for only a few seconds, you can leave the rest to me. Destroy this palace.
Oh. And that's the end of chapter 187. We got an SBS. And then we can move on to chapter 188. Reader! Hello! In volume 19, someone began the question corner in the style of Miss Merry Christmas, so why not do it in the style of Mr. 4? Vice President of the Black Transponder Snail Fan Club. And then it starts with S. And then it says they're speaking as Mr. 4, but they're taking forever to even start. To be continued in the next volume. Oda! I can't allow it, it would take too long. Question! Hello, I've been wondering about something lately. You always begin the question corner with, let's begin the question corner, right? Well, that's so boring. So I came up with this. S! How's that? It's a takeoff on the popular greeting, Oha! Let's say that from now on. Oda! Hey, we can't do that. That's a total ripoff. Show a little more originality, okay, people? S! Broad smile. Question. In a question corner in volume 19, someone requested that you draw those 6 main characters with your left hand. But you only drew Luffy, Zoro, and Nami. Can you please draw the other 3? Here you go, now give me a break. As it shows Oda trying to draw Sanji, Usopp, and Chopper. Now mind you, you can make out that is each of them, but clearly, once again, his right hand is his dominant drawing hand. Chapter 188, Oh Come My Way Karate. Hachi's Walk on the Seafloor, Volume 6. Hachi receives a ring in gratitude. How nice. He fed the man and the man gave him a ring. Destroy the palace? Are you mad, princess?
This ancient palace represents 4,000 years of our history. You can't be serious.
Princess Vivi! Princess! Lord Chaka, don't listen to her. The king would never consent to such an outrage during his absence. Princess Vivi. The people are the kingdom. And then Chaka looks at Vivi and sees her father in her.
Ugh!
As all the guards are stricken with surprise as Chaka kneels before Vivi and goes, "As you wish." And then it cuts to a foot stomping on the face of Sanji.
Where's your bravado now, tough guy? Do you even have the strength to stand up, Mr. Top Flight Sea Cook?
As it cuts to Mr. Two just stomping on to Bon Clay just stomping on Sanji's head because Sanji doesn't hit women. And he won't allow himself. I'm not beaten yet. No matter how much you look like Nami, you're still a swan on the inside. You swan, you're not so hot! And Sanji literally can't even break himself away from being a simp because he sees Nami and he's just so enamored by her. Well, the face of Nami. Darn it, she's so cute! See, this is why you don't simp. It can make you weak. Darn it, she's so cute! And Bon Clay is just laughing in the background.
Goodness, it's so hot in this country. I feel like taking some of my clothes off.
And then it cuts to Bon Clay as Nami opening up her outfit. Need some help? Swan chop! And then Bon Clay turns back into himself and slaps Sanji. And now mind you, Sanji's eye has physically left outside of his body and turned into a massive heart. And Bon Clay takes that opportunity to use a swan chop on Sanji's eye. On his eye.
Swan chop!
Ah! My eye!
Fool! Kick point!
And then it cuts to Bon Clay kicking Sanji directly in the head. Why, you dirty?
Mascara boomerang!
And it cuts to Bon Clay taking his mascara off and throwing it at Sanji.
Oh, please don't kick me.
As Sanji gets close to Bon Clay, but Bon Clay then turns into Nami again, and it stops Sanji. Then those mascara boomerangs come right back around and slice Sanji in his leg.
Mascara catch!
And Bon Clay catches his mascara back onto his eyes again. And then Sanji gets sliced in the leg. Across his leg. Ugh!
I'd love to stay here and play with you all day, but I've got a princess to kill.
As it cuts to Bon Clay turning into Nami again.
It's time to finish you off. Twirl, twirl! I'm going to twirl until these ballet slippers burn up from my passion. Oh, come my way, karate! Memoir of that summer day!
As Bon Clay goes speeding towards Sanji. That's not... And it cuts to Sanji, seeing that Bon Clay has turned back into his regular face again. Ju... Buste! And it cuts to Sanji kicking Bon Clay directly in the face, sending him flying into a nearby building. And then Sanji lands. I found the flaw in your power.
What? How presumptuous! That's absurd! My power has no flaw!
You can't use your come my way karate when you're in Nami's form. I admit I can't bring myself to attack you then, but there's a moment when you're vulnerable. Just before you attack, you always turn back into yourself by touching your face with your left hand.
What's that? I can't hear a word you're saying.
Bullseye. Because Bon Clay's trying to play it off like, oh no, he found out, but
I can't hear you.
Bullseye.
So what? That's right. I can only use my own come my way karate when I'm in the form I trained in. But so what? You're too beaten up to do anything now. In fact, I'll show you my ultimate oh come my way karate move right now. Primo ballerina.
And Bon Clay takes the swans that are on his shoulders and puts them on the tips of his ballerina shoes.
But first, let me tell you this. The one on your right is a male, and the one on your left is female.
Who can tell?
Oh, never mind. Take this. Oh, come my way, karate. Swan Bombardier.
And then it cuts to Bon Clay kicking rapidly in the direction of Sanji. And Sanji dodges out of the way as Bon Clay kicks into a building. Whoa, he punched a hole in the wall with his foot.
That's right. Good thing you ducked. My swan slippers have limber necks and beaks of steel.
There are no cracks around the hole, because Bon Clay kicked directly into a wall, and the hole made is a perfect circle. No cracks, no other indentions, just a perfect bored hole, which makes you wonder what'll happen to a human body if it gets hit by that. There are no cracks around the hole.
When enormous power is directed at one point, it doesn't cause extra damage. Just think of my kicks as bullets from a rifle, only a lot bigger. Now I'll punch a porthole in you. Ooh, duh.
As Bon Clay tries to hit Sanji in multiple places.
Ooh, duh. Why you?
Collier! And Sanji clashes with Bon Clay once again. And Bon Clay realizes that he has the advantage over Sanji real quick.
You can't win!
And he kicks away Sanji. And Sanji goes flying. Blasted. His reach is too long.
Looks like this match is over. Fly, I'm flying! Oh, come my way, karate! Winter Wonderland Jetty!
As it cuts to Bon Clay flying in the air. What's going on, Ozzy? But the longer his reach is, the slower his recovery will be. If I can just evade his first attack, in that one instant I'll have the advantage.
Now die!
And as Bon Clay tries to stab Sanji, Sanji backflips over him.
Huh?
And Sanji's preparing to kick Bon Clay directly in the face. Then Bon Clay turns into Nami.
Too bad. How do I look?
Hey, what's that on your left cheek?
Huh? Where? Oops.
Because Sanji makes Bon Clay touch his face with his left hand, turning him back into his normal state. Base Kote Blast! And Sanji hits Bon Clay directly in the face. And that's the end of chapter 188. Onwards to chapter 189. But before that, another SBS. Reader! The One Piece anime isn't shown where I live. How can this be? Please, even if it's a rerun, let it air where I live. I know it's probably impossible. Answer. Oda. It shouldn't be impossible. I've been getting letters like yours for a while now, but there's not much I can do about it personally. The One Piece anime, as of today, December 4th, 2001, is currently carried by 27 stations and recently began airing even in Taiwan. 3 Japanese prefectures, Aomori, Yamaguchi, and Oita, can't get it though. Though I think there are a few people even in those places who can pick up the signal from neighboring prefectures. So let's make some waves here. One Piece is a production of Fuji TV, so send a letter to your local affiliate and tell them you want it. If all your voices reach the grown-ups at the television stations, I'm sure they will give the matter serious consideration. There are quite a few anime shows that can only be seen by people who live in the Tokyo area. I grew up in Kyushu, so there were a lot of anime I couldn't get. I understand your plight. Tokyo gets all the breaks. Reader, Eiichiro Oda-sensei, let's cut to the chase. Sincerely, Meguko. Oda. Yes, well, I suppose I should answer your question right away. Yes. Person didn't even ask a question. Chapter 189, 2. Just the letter 2. That is on record on the internet. I can't get rid of that now. I was about to say the letter 2. I realize the mistake I have made. Just the letter 2. It's out there. I can't redo that. I can't redo that. This is live. I can't edit that out. Chapter 189, 2. Hachi's Walk on the Seafloor, Volume 7, The Goldfish Princess Who Lost Her Ring. And it cuts to Hachi holding the ring that man gave him up above, and it turns out that it belonged to a goldfish princess under the sea. Under the sea. You know, the one from the original Little Mermaid, not the live-action one. But the chapter continues with Bon Clay's face being absolutely bodied.
Yeah!
And Bon Clay proceeds to right himself, but Sanji's right behind him. Longe Lasher! And Sanji kicks Bon Clay directly in his back, but also his, midsection, through the back, but hitting his ribs as well. Tenderon Tenderizer! And it cuts to Sanji kicking Bon Clay in the solar plexus. Flanche!
Ooh!
And then it cuts to Bon Clay also hitting Sanji dead center with his swan slippers. Quasi Cracker! Do! Why you? Q Crippler! And then they both get sent flying because they do handstanding spinning kicks, like handstand spinning kicks against one another, and they send each other flying again. Quiso Crusher!
Hey, you! Hoo-yah!
Jade Jade! Jade Jade! And they keep hitting each other. I love Sanji's attack names. They're just foods. Once again, apologies if I'm butchering it. And they're both struggling to get back up, and they launch at each other. Vo Vengeance!
Swan Bombardier Dive!
And they just launch past each other. And then they land past each other. And then there's just silence as they're breathing heavily and they're bleeding heavily. And then it just cuts to their backs. Then it shows Bon Clay suffering a whole bunch of damage in that instance. Anime logic. You can hit a person and then walk past them, and then they suffer the damage and impacts in that instance. But Bon Clay really suffers it. And then gets sent flying into the building past Sanji. They literally fall past each other, but Bon Clay then suffers the hit from Sanji and then gets launched backwards past Sanji into the building that Sanji's facing. Delayed reaction much, maybe? And then Sanji's breathing heavily, and then he just falls over to the side.
I give up.
You're still breathing? Amazing. What? All you have to do is transform into Nami again, and I won't be able to finish you off.
Don't make me laugh. I can't even move. I put off the inevitable. You win, so kill me. The organization will eliminate me anyway for failing.
Typos, they're practically breakdancing? Pretty much, yeah.
What are you waiting for? Hurry and finish me off!
Then it just cuts to Sanji reaching his hand out to Bon Clay. Shocking, Bon Clay. It was a good fight. There's nothing more to be said.
This man is living proof of grudging respect between enemies. No, I'm not gonna cry!
As Bon Clay puts his face to the side and just immediately starts crying. And then it cuts to a massive wham sound as it cuts to Bon Clay being absolutely bodied again as Sanji goes, "Later, I'm taking back the goggles."
So you are going to finish me off?
And it just cuts to Bon Clay being completely bodied. Alabarna South Block, the Battle of Polka Boulevard. Winner, Sanji. Spoils of victory, a dubious friendship. Looks like I broke some more bones. As Sanji shakingly walks away from Bon Clay, there's something directly on my eye, and it's poking it. I do hate when that happens. Looks like I broke some more bones. More bones. So this dude broke a whole bunch of bones and he's struggling to walk away. Alabarna Palace! Gather all the explosives we have! Are they serious about this? But what of Alabasas history? Be patient. Everything will be ready shortly. And then it cuts to Chaka speaking to Vivi. I don't know what to say.
It's all right, Chaka. I understand. There was no other solution but to counterattack the rebels. You dealt with the violence admirably for more than 2 years without Igaram. You dealt with the violence admirably for more than 2 years without Igaram to guide you. I'm sorry. I had to leave like I did.
And then it cuts to members of the Royal Army clashing with more of the rebels.
But it isn't over yet. Even if we succeed in putting down this rebellion, as long as he remains alive, this kingdom will never know peace. So I'm worried about them.
And then it cuts back to Zoro talking to Vivi earlier. You have to survive, no matter what happens to the rest of us. Princess Vivi, in the 2 years you've been away, you've grown wise as well as beautiful. When this war is over, we must throw a grand celebration for those pirates. And then it cuts to the words of Luffy going, Then feed me!
Yes. After I kick that crocodile's butt, feed me till I explode, okay?
Then it cuts to a member of the Royal Army.
Lord Chaka!
What? What is it?
Here, in the palace!
Tut tut. You're playing a dangerous game, Miss Wednesday. This is my new home you're trying to demolish. As it cuts to this Royal Guard member dying at the feet of Vivi, as it's Crocodile! I've always liked palaces. It's the perfect place from which to look down on vermin.
Crocodile!
The Fiend. Alabarna North Block, Medi Assembly Hall. Mr. One and Ms. Doublefinger versus Zoro and Nami. That idiot? Where'd she go? I told her to hide and keep quiet. That stupid girl is nothing but a nuisance. Hey, you guys go look. Wait, there she is. As someone screams in the background. All right, let's take a shortcut. And then it cuts to Nami in the distance running away from two individuals, and Zoro takes off perpendicular to where she's running instead of running to where she is. She's like far off in a distance. You can visually see her, and then he just takes off in the same direction she's running, but not in the same direction she actually is. And he calls that a shortcut. All right, let's take a shortcut. And then the ducks are just looking like, where are you going?
No! Jeez, what's that stupid swordsman doing?
Rule 1 in the guide to killing. Crush the weakest target first. And that's Mr. One.
Let's show her how professionals operate.
And that's Miss Doublefinger. And that's the end of chapter 189. Onwards to chapter 190, Climate Baton. Hachi's Walk on the Seafloor, Volume 8, a golden trident given in gratitude.
That's it. I can't run anymore. I'll have to fight.
And it cuts to Mr. One and Miss Doublefinger walking closer and closer to Nami.
Can't.
And Nami just keeps running from them. Here we go again.
So rash.
And then it cuts to Mr. One who just leaps at Nami before she can even react. You wonder how can Zoro manage to fight with that horrible sense of direction? That's a good question. That's a good question. Let's keep going. But Mr. One launches at Nami.
What?
As Zoro comes in and keeps Mr. One from harming and killing Nami as he pushes her down but blocks his attack. Blocks his attack with his sword. How can he hit people? See, here's the thing. I think he only has a horrible sense of direction when he's not fighting. When he's fighting, his sense of direction is perfect. He knows exactly where the enemy is, and he can aim perfectly. But when he's not fighting, his sense of direction is horrible. It's kind of like Goku. His mind is really at its best when he's fighting, but his mind is pretty much almost gone when he's not. You ever seen how Goku behaves whenever he's not fighting? He's literally an idiot. But when he's fighting, he is like at the top of his game. Same applies to Zoro. Zoro's at the top of his game when he's fighting, and not so much when he's not. That's just how I feel about it. I don't know if that's the correct explanation, but that's how I feel about it. But Mr. One tries to kill Nami, and Zoro saves her in that instance. Buffering. You have some buffering problems? Oh no, everything's fine. Everything is fine. I haven't gotten any notifications like, buffering? I don't see any buffering. Not on my end. Yeah, there's no buffering on my end. Yeah, there's no buffering on my end. It might be from your side, Kohagen, because the whole time I was talking about Zoro and his sense of direction and Goku and his sense of fighting and everything, there was no buffering on my end. I would know if there was buffering on my end because I would see drop frames. I didn't drop any. So, yeah, we're fine. Let's continue on. Zoro saves Nami, and then it cuts to after Mr. One tried to slash tried to kill Nami.
Zoro!
And then Zoro looks up as the entire pillar where they were near gets spliced up vertically. It gets sliced up vertically.
That stone column broke vertically?
Broke? Not likely. That was the sound of a sword. Meddling. As Mr. One zones in on Zoro, and they clash with one another. And it's a clang sound rather than his sword going through his arm.
What?
You can cut with your arm. You can cut with that arm, didn't you? Quite a weird body you got there. As it shows the edge of Mr. One's arm being akin to that of an actual blade. So, you figured it out. Thanks to the dice fruit, I'm a human sword. And you're the swordsman who took down 100 men at Whiskey Peak. As it shows Mr. One turning his body into blades, both the underside of his fingers and the length of his arm as well. Why are all protagonists idiots, but when it comes to fighting, they're geniuses? Goku, Naruto, Yusuke, Asta, Natsu, etc., etc. Because that's what their mind is geared towards. Anything else is basically, how do you function in modern society, and how are you not arrested for all these different things? Yeah, that's pretty much how they are. And you're the swordsman who took down 100 men at Whiskey Peak. A few years ago on the East Blue, you also turned down an offer to work for Baroque Works. You're that pirate hunter who took out Mr. Seven, right? That brings back memories, but it wasn't my fault. You guys rejected my conditions. I told your agent I'd join if I could be the boss. I completely forgot about that. Zoro was offered a chance to join Baroque Works, but they rejected him because he wanted to be the head honcho over everybody. I completely forgot about that. I told your agent I'd join if I could be the boss.
He's funny.
Instead of agreeing to my demand, he attacked me, so I dealt with him. Do you have a new offer for me? Of course, I'm not interested in being the boss anymore. Only an idiot would want that job. And then Mr. One attacks Zoro.
Ooh.
Don't get cocky with me. You're just a swordsman of a little band of no-account pirates. So what if I am? What are you? You're a mindless puppet who's been sold a fantasy world. Or maybe you're more like a hollow tin soldier. Miss Doublefinger.
You want me to stay out of it, don't you? Be my guest. I'll deal with the girl.
Darn it! Nami! She's gone! And then it cuts to Mr. One, who sharpens up the inside of his fingers as he prepares to attack Zoro again. Then it cuts to Nami, who's hiding off in an alleyway somewhere.
Build you a weapon?
As we go back in time to when Usopp created the climate baton for her earlier.
That's right. I want you to make a special weapon for me. I mean, I know I'm not a fighter like the rest of you guys. I'm stylish and attractive, but
what are you talking about?
I don't want to be a burden to anyone anymore. I want to be able to fight, especially now. For Vivi's sake, I need something so that I can take on the enemy myself. You understand, right, Usopp?
But there's not much time. We'll be in Alabasta soon.
You're right. There's no way I could become stronger so fast. Sorry I bothered you.
Ugh, stop right there! Don't you know there's no task too difficult for Usopp?
You'll do it? Thank you, Usopp, I love you!
Now about the cost of materials.
Thank you so much!
Yeah, but weapons like this don't come cheap.
I'm counting on you!
Walk that walk, Miss Doublefinger. Look, we don't get characters who walk like Miss Doublefinger anymore. Hips that go at a 90-degree angle with each sway. Seriously, we don't get characters who walk like that anymore. We don't.
Yeah, but weapons like this don't come cheap. I'm counting on you. That's right. What am I doing running around and hiding? I said I was going to fight this time.
And then it cuts back to Vivi as she says,
I won't let Baroque works have their way in this country anymore. I guess Vivi wasn't able to stop the rebels at the city gates. I hope she's all right, and the others too. Okay, I have to do it. She's only one woman. I can take her.
And then something pierces the wall right behind Nami and gets her in the shoulder. And then she falls to the ground. And then numerous spikes goes through the wall and creates like a facsimile of a door. And then that door gets pushed straight through as Miss Doublefinger walks straight through the door.
It's no use, little girl. No matter where you run, no matter where you hide. Miss Doublefinger! Was that some sort of spear, or is this one of those powers? Have you figured it out? I'm a human spike. I ate the spike fruit. I can produce spikes from any part of my body.
And she shows this by causing the cuffs around her jacket to turn into spikes as well. Spiky.
Spikes that can pierce stone walls like they were cardboard? She wants to make a human pincushion out of me.
Then it cuts to Nami holding up the climate baton that Usopp made her.
Oh? Are you going to fight me? I'll fight you, and I might even win. Get a taste of my new weapon, the climate baton. Usopp, I'm counting on you. It can summon the clouds. It can make rain. It can stir up the wind. Once in position, this miraculous baton can cause extraordinary changes in the weather. What? I'll start with sunny, and now I pressed a button. Fine tempo!
And then she puts her climate baton in the shape of like a triangle. And it just causes like doves to fly out from it.
Oh, what a surprise! Pigeons! That idiot!
As Nami throws down her climate baton on the ground. And then Miss Doublefinger just goes,
Are you all right? No, I have to trust him. According to the instructions, this is a rifle.
And she puts her climate baton in like the shape of a gun. Two sections straightways and one that's just tilted to the side for her to hold.
This is more like it. It's all over for you now! Cloudy Tempo! Oh, what pretty flowers.
As flowers pops up out of the end of it.
How can I win with this thing?
And then Miss Doublefinger is just literally looking at Nami going,
Poor thing.
she's really feeling sad for Nami. Like, she's actually sweating beads of sweat, like, this is pathetic. I actually feel sorry for this girl. That's exactly how Miss Doublefinger looks. That's the end of chapter 190. Onwards to chapter 191, but first, another SBS. Reader, what are orange peko and apuru tea? And apuru tea. Surely you know what apple tea is. It's tea. Orange pekoe is a variety of tea as well. The agents of Baroque works all have their own favorite teas. For example, Mr. 3 likes Earl Grey. Ms. Golden Week likes green tea. Mr. 5 prefers gunpowder tea. And Ms. Valentine likes lemon tea. They're always drinking tea in various situations. However, Mr. 2 prefers octopears, which is, Mr. 2's preference for having octopus parfaits. Reader, hello, Oda-sensei. As I was rereading the books, I noticed that in volume 18, page 162, panel 2, there's a person like this to the left. Then in volume 16, volume 19, page 15, panel 5, there's a person like this. Are these two the same person? And it's a shot of a girl who's smiling with like rosy red cheeks. Yes, they're the same person. If you look closely at the rebel forces, you'll find a number of members of the old San band. Very perceptive of you to notice. So in the crowd of kids, there's one child that's been in the rebel army ever since the San band. And it includes one dude that had goggles on his head that was with Koza as a child back then as well. Lined up like this, they're more or less recognizable, aren't they? These rebels are all former members of the San band. Chapter 191, She Who Controls the Weather. Hachi's Walk on the Seafloor, Volume 9. A sea boar hunted by a sea monster. And it cuts to a giant fish-like creature that's going after the sea boar that's running away, and Hachi's directly in front of it. Now we cut back to Ms. Doublefinger versus Nami.
Double Stinger!
And Nami dodges as Ms. Doublefinger turns her hands into like spikes and jabs into the wall behind her in rapid succession. Ah! As Nami gets clipped by one of these attacks, and she dodges out of the way before Ms. Doublefinger can, puncture her. And then Nami starts rolling away, and then she's over on the other side of the alley.
What an obstinate girl you are. Don't you realize it's useless to keep running away? You can't win, and no one is going to rescue you. Now hold still, and I'll make it quick and painless. Or do you insist on continuing your little magic show?
And then it cuts to Nami still reading the instructions from Usopp.
Oh, I still have lots of tricks up my sleeve. One of these has to work. I just have to keep trying till I find it. The forecast is thunder!
And she puts her climate baton in positions where it just turns into like three points against each other.
Thunder Tempo!
And then something launches out of the end of it, and it turns out to be a boxing glove on an extendable extension. I don't know the correct term to call that, like a boxing glove on a pulley arm. And Miss Doublefinger just slaps it away. And then Miss Doublefinger turns the tips of her fingers into spikes, and she clips Nami in the face with
Finger Stinger! Ah! My cheek! It's bleeding! Am I going to die here like this? That long-nosed fool! I'll curse him from the grave! That long nose, it was supposed to be a weapon! Huh?
And then Nami looks at the instructions.
All right, time to die. Ready?
And then it cuts to Miss Doublefinger, who's upside down over Nami across one of the awnings that stretches in between one of the buildings.
What? She's upside down! How?
And then it cuts to an X-ray view of Miss Doublefinger basically causing spikes to go through her feet and her shoes into the awning, allowing her to stick to it. And then she jumps off and turns her entire body into a mass of spikes. She turns into a big old ball of sharp spikes.
Hedgehog Stinger!
And then Nami runs away before she gets, crushed and punctured at the same time.
That was close.
And then Miss Doublefinger starts spinning in place, basically spin dashing. She's basically Sonic right now.
Hey, wait! Stop! I said wait! Ah! Just 1 minute! Can't you give me just 1 minute? Huh? There's no cover around here. Maybe inside?
Give up! As it cuts to Nami jumping through a window and Miss Doublefinger keeping up with Nami. And keeping up with Nami and jumping after her.
It's over. I'm going to skewer you. I refuse to die. Such a horrible death!
As Nami takes off her cloak and wraps Miss Doublefinger in it, causing Miss Doublefinger to get tossed, to, get wrapped up in it and having to stop in the middle of this, what appears to be a restaurant. And then Nami just bolts out of the door of this place.
So she's not a total novice when it comes to fighting.
And then it cuts to Nami hiding behind another wall. Well, it's more like a stack of boxes, to be more accurate.
What was it? Earlier, I thought I saw something in the manual. Something about...
And so, the aforementioned tricks, when performed at a party or celebration, will liven up the event and entertain everyone present.
That idiot!
Note, combat mode instructions can be found on the reverse side.
The reverse side?
Because all this time, Nami's been looking at the party instructions, but she hasn't been looking at the combat instructions, which are on the reverse side of the paper.
The reverse side?
And then she's surprised to see what's over on the other side. And then it cuts to Miss Doublefinger again, back to smoking her very long pipe.
Now, where are you hiding? Here, kitty.
And then it cuts to Nami laughing.
I won't run or hide anymore. Huh? I've been a thief for 8 years. In any life or death situation, I've always survived by my own wits.
And then it cuts to Nami, who's just showing her full outfit right now.
Don't mistake me for a helpless little girl. I see. Forgive me. What happened? Why are you suddenly so confident?
Then we get some instructions.
Rule 1 of baton basics for combat. Know the special qualities of each of the 3 batons.
I'm through playing around.
Shaking or blowing into the batons will release air bubbles.
And then it cuts to Nami blowing into one section of her baton, causing an air bubble to go out.
The first baton creates hot air.
Heat ball! Oh, it feels a bit warm.
The second baton creates cold air.
Cool ball! Ah, nice and cool.
And the third baton creates electricity.
Thunderball! Ouch, I felt a little shock.
The batons are not perfected yet, but you can use them at parties.
Who cares about parties? Are you done now?
And then it cuts to Miss Doublefinger, still sashaying, but she has extra long spikes going, one extra long spike going each of her feet, and she's above Nami, and she starts moving incredibly fast towards Nami in an attempt to, stab into her as she's walking.
Sewing stinger!
And then it cuts to Nami running away again.
Please let me find something I can use!
And then as she's running, Nami gets punctured through the leg by a spike.
I'm sorry, but I have to end this now. Stinger Stomper!
And Doublefinger causes her entire foot to just erupt into a big mass of spikes. Wide, long spikes, mind you.
Cyclone Tempo!
And then it cuts to a section of her baton spinning together and then launching itself at Miss Doublefinger. And Doublefinger is shocked to see that she gets blown back. She's shocked to see this Cyclone Tempo get close to her, and then she's blown back by a massive gust of wind.
Wind?
And then the Cyclone Tempo comes back and boomerangs right back to her and latches back onto her baton again.
That's it! The heat ball and the cool ball. When they stop spinning, the hot and cold air bubbles collide and form a bigger bubble. that releases explosive winds. That's amazing, Usopp.
Cyclone Temple is like a boomerang and can be played outside with everyone after the party.
Even its creator doesn't realize it. Ugh, blast that weird weapon.
As Miss Doublefinger gets up from being tossed aside. Mind you, this might be the first time she's ever been thrown back by anybody before.
Maybe, but maybe.
And then it cuts to Usopp explaining this even more.
Finally, the Tornado Temple packs a knockout punch. Once struck by it, no human enemy will be able to get up again. However, it is absolutely a weapon of last resort. You only have one shot. If you miss, it's all over.
What are you looking at? What? Never look away until the fight is over.
Yo, Psycho, good to see you.
Mortal Kombat is nothing to take lightly, dear. Especially with the reboot where it looks excessively gory.
And then it cuts to Miss Doublefinger, who stabs into Nami. And then it turns out that she doesn't stab into Nami, but she stabs into like some sort of afterimage.
Fooled you! How? I used the cool ball to change the density of the atmosphere. Dramatic differences in temperature cause light to refract in unusual ways. I think this weapon suits me perfectly. A mirage? At such a short distance? I finally understand the climate baton. Now surrender!
And that's the end of chapter 191. We got an SBS, and then we can move on to 192. Reader! Oda-sensei. I read volume 19 and was shocked. In the first panel on page 104, Sam is amongst the crowd that is running away. What's he doing in Alabasta? And why is he drunk again? Please tell me. Takashima 192. Oda! Yes, that surprised me too. I completely forgot I'd drawn that. But he is there. Remember, Sam is the drunk guy that was running with the villagers during the Arlong Park arc when everyone was going to go and assault Arlong Park because of what Arlong and company did to Nojiko. Sam is now somehow all the way in Alabasta. Now. Interesting. But he is there, that's for sure. So how did he get there? Just hear me out. That was Sam's second daughter's wedding day. When his older daughter was 8 years old, Sam's wife left him and Sam had to raise his daughters by himself. The second daughter grew up to be a delinquent and caused him a lot of headaches. She got into fights and even ran away from home. Now that daughter was getting married. He used to tell his daughter, "I can't wait till you leave home." But actually he felt sad. And happy too. Sam said, "How can I not drink tonight?" And he drank and wandered until he found himself in Alabasta. How do you drink yourself and wander to the point where you go across from one town, across the sea, all the way into an entirely brand new nation? What stuff is you drinking for you to wander from home all the way into another nation? The people around him were in an uproar, so Sam joined in, although Sam's reason and that of the crowds differed slightly. And that's the end of that question. Reader! Sensei, I was watching TV the other day and somebody said that Buggy's pants are going to be the new rage. Will you buy some Buggy pants? Oda, I won't buy them. Chapter 192, Tornado Warning. Hachi's Walk on the Seafloor, Volume 10. Hachi saves the sea boar. And using that same golden trident that he gotten from the goldfish princess, he uses his trident to stab into this sea creature and keep it from eating this sea boar. Alabarna, Southeast Gate. Hey, look there.
Oh, thanks. You got my goggles back. Sanji, you're the best. Ah, they're broken. Why, you? These are the latest goggles from North Blue. Do you have any idea what they're worth?
Because the goggles of Usopp just break off as soon as he puts them on. Because Sanji has fully caught up to Usopp and Chopper, along with eyelashes. Those are probably rebel reinforcements.
More of them?
Ah, looks like it.
Hey, where have you been hiding, eyelashes?
Let's go to the palace. Vivi may need our help.
Okay.
Come on, Usopp, let's go.
What? Hey, wait for me! Can't you see I'm injured?
Because Usopp is just completely covered in bandages. If Sir Crocodile is here in Alabarna, then the rumors about him trying to take over Alabasta must be true. Open the gates! Princess Vivi is in danger! Am I saying that right? Hold on. Let me see this. Hold on. I'm going to pronounce this correctly. D-I-E-C-I. Okay. How do I say this? Oh, it's the SS6. It's the SS6. You would think with my previous history of Spanish, I would know it. DSS Fleur. And then all of a sudden, Nico Robin causes hands to pop out of the doors before the Royal Army can even get there. Huh? Hands? Huh? Hands from the gate! What is that? And it cuts to these same hands pushing some of the Royal Guard members down the stairs. Ah!
There seems to be quite a commotion outside the gate. Papa!
Your Majesty!
And it cuts to King Cobra, who's just literally nailed to the wall. Like his arms are up against the wall, and there's nails going through his limbs, keeping him pinned to the wall.
Vivi, forgive me. You risked your life to save the kingdom, but I ruined it.
Free the king, crocodile!
Papa!
The king is correct. However, Miss Wednesday, you were only able to make it back here because those Straw Hat pirates helped you. Be grateful to them.
How did you get here? Where's Luffy?
I told you, he's dead.
That's a lie! There's no way you could have defeated him!
That fool aside, let me make one thing clear. I have no intention of sparing you or your father. When a kingdom perishes, its royal family perishes with it. That is the natural course of things. However, Cobra, there's something I need to know before I take your throne. Since this was what I was after all along. Where is the Pluton?
And then Vivi looks confused. Robin doesn't say anything. And Chaka looks surprised. And then Cobra, with absolute terror in his eyes, goes,
You scoundrel! Where did you hear of that?
And then it cuts to Nami, who's still fighting Miss Doublefinger.
That's an interesting weapon you have, but unless it helps you when you're fighting...
Because Miss Doublefinger is using both of her arms and her... How can I say this without this causing me to be demonetized? She's stabbing Nami in stabbing towards Nami in 4 different spots. But she has her arms that are above Nami's head and her... fronts stabbing towards her as well. Use your imagination when I say fronts, because she's stabbing towards Nami in order to keep her from moving.
It's no better than a toy, is it? But unless it helps you when you're fighting, it's no better than a toy, is it? Whatever its original purpose, anything that can be used to kill people is a weapon!
And then she turns her lips into a spike, and she tries to stab Nami straight through the head, but Nami dodges out of the way.
Even a face.
And then she turns her face back to normal as Nami continues to run away.
If I don't do something quick, I'm dead!
And then it cuts to Ms. Doublefinger having one piece of her climate baton in her hands.
Oh, but you'll never kill me with this toy. A wool sweater generates more electricity than this does. There's only one way to find out!
Can't you just say... Okay, here's the thing. I'm not one who says that word often, so it's weird for me to say. I can say chest, though. Like, she causes her chest to be turned into spikes. Yeah, why didn't I just say that? Why didn't I just say that? I make things awkward for myself and I don't need to. That's a personal issue that I need to work out. But it cuts to her holding the baton in her hand, like holding one of the batons in her hands. Because Nami tossed it to her.
Oh, but you'll never kill me with this toy. A wool sweater generates more electricity than this does. There's only one way to find out. Give it back!
And then it cuts to Nami flipping that same piece from her hands and it flying into the air, with Nami thinking,
I have to think of something. There's that last trick that, according to Usopp, can only be used once. If I can find the right opportunity, it just might work.
With the 3 types of air bubbles,
Well, with the 3 types of air bubbles, I need something that will make use of this country's parched climate. If only the air had a little more moisture. Moisture! That's it! There was a trick for making rain. Rain tempo! A water shell?
and it cuts to Nami just doing tricks with her climate baton, and it's shooting water out of its different holes across of it.
Sprinkler!
And it cuts to Nami who's spinning around while she's still spraying water into the air.
You really are desperate. That's not it! I do have a plan! That's enough. This show's getting old. Time to draw the curtains.
And then Miss Doublefinger turns all of her hair into just like a giant mass of spikes.
A sea urchin! Sea urchin stinger! Cool ball!
And then Nami puffs out a whole bunch of cool balls around Miss Doublefinger.
I'll poke enough holes in you to become a beehive.
And Nami dodges out of the way as Miss Doublefinger barrels forward and then just completely crashes through a building. And just like Mr. 2, the hole she makes is perfectly cylindrical. It's a perfect circle, which makes you wonder, how does that actually work? I understand Bon Clay and his swan slippers boring a hole through the wall because that's the shape of it. But Miss Doublefinger is all spikes. How did she bore a perfect circle through a wall that she ran through with spikes in different directions? Wouldn't the resounding hole be jagged from all the uneven terrain that is her face, that is her head? Makes you wonder how. But then I remember this is one piece where logic really doesn't matter at all. So I'm asking the wrong questions.
That would have been a lot worse than a beehive. The wall's scorched.
Because apparently, not only... Wow, okay, I didn't know this. Not only did she go through the wall, but the wall basically heated up from the amount of friction of her boring through it. I didn't know that she did that. Huh. Hot spikes. I don't like that type of acupuncture.
To repay you for your performance earlier, I'll show you something interesting.
And then it cuts to Miss Doublefinger causing her fingers, her actual fingers, to become spikes.
Now's my chance. Heat ball!
And then she just puts her fingers onto her shoulder, and then she stabs into her shoulders.
When moist hot air rises and rapidly cooled by descending cold air, the moisture in it condenses, and then... Huh? Spike you puncture!
As it cuts to Miss Doublefinger's arms enlarging themselves after she stabbed into her arms.
I warned you about looking away.
And it cuts to Miss Doublefinger, who's caused her entire arm to basically turn into that of a spiked kanabo. Like her whole arm is just all spikes all over her arms. And since they're enlarged, that also comes with increased strength and increased damage as well.
Stinger rampage!
And she completely clubs straight through a pillar with absolutely no effort whatsoever. And then the whole one portion of the awning that Nami was hiding under completely gives way, almost completely gives way.
I must say, your dodging ability is truly exceptional. My leg, it's hurt bad. Oh, what about the air bubbles?
And then Nami looks up and she starts smiling.
I made it, but it's not very big. Cloud! What was that? I'm not finished yet. I have to make it bigger. Cool ball, heat ball!
And then it cuts to Nami, who's spinning her climate baton, the two that can put out a cool ball and a heat ball, and she starts spinning it, causing the bubbles to, float more and more bubbles to float into the air. I wonder what she's doing.
I've had enough! Stinger Rampage!
And it cuts to Nami actually being hit and being tossed to the side.
Well, are you ready to die? Are you still defiant?
And then it cuts to Nami throwing up another ball as the cloud that she's been making gets larger and larger and larger. And then Miss Doublefinger can only look back.
Thunderbolt Tempo!
And this cloud turns out to be a thundercloud as it lets out a massive bolt of lightning that electrocutes Miss Doublefinger.
Ah!
And then she's just left there, almost completely out of breath.
I'll get you for that.
And she glares at Nami. And then she tries to stab Nami in the face with a fistful of spikes, only to see that it's yet another mirage.
No!
And then Nami just nonchalantly walks right behind her going,
And now for today's weather. Humidity and wind are both moderate, with high atmospheric pressure. It should be a fine sunny day. However, in one particular area, there's a possibility of mirages and strong winds. Again? Watch out for tornadoes!
and that is the end. That is the end of chapter 192. We have an SBS, and then we have 193 afterwards. Oda, time for an unusual stroll. Miss Happy Birthday has sent us this maze game. I tried it, and it seems like the goal can be reached by various paths, so there's more than one solution. Have fun with those that you run into. Let's go for a walk. And then it just shows how it starts with Luffy and all the people that they've encountered. Luffy and the instructions are, reach the goal by passing every character in boy-girl order without passing any character twice. Mr. 2 can be counted as either gender, cause he's iffy. That's how they describe him. So it has Luffy, then you go with Nami, Zoro, Vivi, Igaram, Miss Valentine, Mr. 1, Miss Doublefinger, Sir Crocodile, Miss Merry Christmas, Koza, Dr. Kureha, Shaka, Miss Golden Week, Cobra, and then Belmare. That's how you get to the end of the maze. So yeah, I already figured that out. Sent in by Ms. Happy Birthday. It's a nice looking maze when you think about it, even though it's like rudimentary. Chapter 193, Utopia. Hachi's Walk on the Seafloor, Volume 11, in the mouth of the sea boar. And apparently there's something in this sea boar's mouth. And then it cuts to Usopp.
Tornado Tempo packs a knockout punch. However, it is absolutely a weapon of last resort. You only have one shot. If you miss, it's all over.
Beware of tornadoes! Are you all right? Huh? Your left foot looks pretty bad. I bet you won't be able to stand on it much longer.
As Miss Doublefinger turns her hair into spikes.
She can still move? Sea Urchin Stinger!
And then it cuts to Nami, who is still holding her climate baton in front of her, but she uses her foot in order to keep the Sea Urchin Stinger from hitting her, but in the process winds up stabbing that same foot that's been injured, causing Nami to be skid backwards a bit. And this surprises Miss Doublefinger.
It doesn't hurt. A bit. Do you have any idea of the pain Vivi has suffered? Compared to that, a foot or two or three is nothing.
And it shows her foot actively being punctured by the spikes of Miss Doublefinger's hair. And bleeding. Of course, that's obvious, because when you puncture something like a body part, of course it's going to bleed. But
compared to a foot or two or three is nothing. Take that! Tornado Tempo!
And then the sides of her climate baton explode, and it shows birds. Like birds on like springs. Wind-up birds on springs that spring out right next to Miss Doublefinger. And Nami just looks on in utter shock. And then Miss Doublefinger starts smiling. And then those same birds start to wrap themselves around Miss Doublefinger.
What? Huh? What? Ah! Those pigeons are tangling!
And it cuts to Miss Doublefinger whirling and being spun in place by this tornado tempo, and then sent flying far away from Nami with extreme force, screaming as she goes. And Nami gets thrown back. Nami gets thrown back into some boxes.
Ugh! Ow!
And all we see is the imprint of Miss Doublefinger's body through one building, and then we see the other side of the building with another imprint of her body through the wall, and her laying unconscious. Her laying unconscious on the other side. And then it just shows the bird just still peeping. And then Nami's just looking around, huffing and puffing after such a strenuous battle. Alabarna, North Block, Medi Assembly Hall, the Battle of the Backstreets. Winner, Nami. Then we cut back to Crocodile.
Pluton. One shot of it can vaporize an entire island to smithereens. Named for the god of death, it was the most terrible weapon of the ancient world. And it's sleeping somewhere in this kingdom.
And then Cobra just looks on silently at Crocodile.
That has been my goal from the very start. With that in my possession, I can forge the most powerful military nation in the region.
A super weapon? In this kingdom?
A secret passed down with a crown. When I become king, it will be a simple matter to recruit pirates to serve under me. I will increase my political power until it surpasses that of the world government. Mine will be a kingdom of legends.
Then it cuts to Cobra.
The world government will never allow it. Probably not, which is precisely why I need the Pluton. I don't know where you heard of this Pluton, but I don't know its whereabouts, or whether such a thing even exists in this kingdom. Yes, I feared as much. I realize that the very existence of such a thing is questionable. By the way, you know the palace square where the royal army is now gathered. At 4:30 or 30 minutes from now, a powerful cannon will fire a projectile into it.
We must get in!
But what about those hands?
Are you mad? It is a special cannonball that will blast a crater 3 miles in diameter. It will instantly alter the view from this palace.
30 minutes from now? But if you do that...
Aren't you pleased? You've tried so hard to put an end to the rebellion. By my calculations, in 20 minutes the rebel forces will reach the square, and the fighting will begin. Destroying the palace was such an indirect method. It's much faster just to blow the rebels up.
And then Vivi protests.
How can you do such a thing, Princess Vivi? What did they ever do to you?
They're inconsequential. Now then, King Cobra, I have another question for you. Where is the poneglyph recorded?
The poneglyph? Why would you need that record of history?
If I tell you where it is,
Papa!
No, I'll take you there. King Cobra, the famous ruler, you're a wise man. Princess Vivi, I can't stand this anymore.
And then it cuts to Chaka, who starts to draw his sword. North Block, Medi Assembly Hall, on the main streets. On the main streets, Zoro and Mr. One continue their clash.
Three swords style.
Bull, Iron Guard.
Needles!
I just love it when Zoro says, Santuryu! The toe part is just, Santuryu!
Bull,
Iron Guard.
Needles!
And he tries to slash against Mr. One. And Mr. One is still just standing in place. So, your body is as hard as sword metal. If I want to cut you, I have to be able to cut steel. That's right. Slashing and hacking has no effect on me. That's too bad. I can't cut steel yet, so I can't defeat you. So what will you do? I feel sorry for you. I've been waiting to be driven into a corner like this, so I could take it up a notch in strength. When I defeat you, that means I'll be able to cut through steel. And Zoro fully takes it seriously as he takes off his jacket and he's back down to his white shirt and his green sash once more. And that's the end of chapter 193, onwards to 194, Cutting Steel. And then it cuts to Mr. 1. I hate to disappoint you, but ever since I gained my dice power, no swordsman has ever made a scratch on me. No swordsman can defeat me. Yeah, I understand, but you should put your stories from the past in a photo album. I have no idea how many swordsmen you fought over the years, but you've never met someone like me before. You talk a good fight. Thanks, Baldy. As Mr. 1 dashes towards Zoro and tries to use his leg to slice him, like his leg is upright and Zoro's blocking it with two of his swords. How long can you last? Right back at ya. And it shows Mr. 1 spinning around, and then he prepares to hit Zoro with a handful of blades. Razor claws. And Zoro blocks it. And then he takes his other hand and tries to hit Zoro, and then they just continue to clash with one another with their swords. Zoro with his swords, and Mr. 1 with his bare hands. I always thought that was a cool power when I saw it, like literally being able to turn your hands into blades however you want. I always thought that was a cool power. And then Mr. 1 proceeds to try and slice Zoro, like kick Zoro, like sweep Zoro, but Zoro dodges away because Mr. 1's leg has a blade on the end of it. And then Zoro flips away. And then Zoro finally puts his third sword in his mouth. Oni? Giri! And this surprises Mr. 1. This surprises Mr. 1 as Zoro slashes him with onigiri. And while Mr. 1 is falling backwards, Zoro jumps over him. Tiger! And he hits Mr. 1 while he's still airborne. Trap! And causes Mr. 1 to fall back first into the ground. And then Zoro takes his sword out of his mouth and looks back to Mr. 1 to see Mr. 1 still standing. I told you. Not even a scratch. That's a bit depressing. And you got up after I flattened you. That's a first for me. Of course. You've never met someone like me before. And then it cuts to Zoro barely managing to dodge out of the way as Mr. 1 jumps at him and tries to stab him with a foot ending in a long blade. That's right. This guy's a human blade. Every part of his body is a cutting edge. And then as it shows Mr. 1 trying to jab at Zoro by turning his leg and foot into a long blade, Zoro dodges out of the way and finds himself rolling. These have got to be some strong scabbards for him to be rolling across his body, like across, and his scabbards are not taking any damage, nor does it feel uncomfortable for him to roll multiple times with sword scabbards on his side. Just saying. Because if you try to roll with scabbards, you're going to be concerning yourself about whether those scabbards are getting damaged. Can you easily roll with scabbards? Once again, this is anime manga logic that I'm trying to apply in real life, but you're just saying, in real life, it's going to be tricky. Daisy blades. And Mr. 1 puts his hands together. Let me give you an example of what he does. Mr. 1 puts his hands together, and he lashes and he launches at Zoro. And as he's holding his hands against Zoro, the entire building behind him gets diced up in more than 5 pieces from the force of this blow. This guy, off with you. And he launches Zoro into the building as it's still crumbling. And then the wind howls, and Mr. 1 is just standing there in front of the building. I've pushed myself harder than anyone. I've been to the brink of death 1,000 times. So what am I lacking? And it shows Zoro's bloodied arm underneath some rubble.
Sensei! Sensei!
Huh?
I heard there are men in this world who can cut through anything, even steel. Is that true?
And we cut to a flashback of a young Zoro. Yes, that's true. Watch this sheet of paper very carefully, Zoro. Ta! And he hits the paper with his sword.
It's still in one piece.
Listen, Zoro. There are swordsmen in this world who are able to not cut anything.
Huh?
These same swordsmen also have the ability to cut through steel, and with the same instrument. The pinnacle of swordsmanship is the power to protect what one wishes to protect, and cut what one wishes to cut. A blade that injures all that it touches isn't really a sword. Do you understand? And then Zoro just listens in.
Sensei, I'm gonna become a swordsman who can cut through anything.
Zoro, did you hear a word I said? And then the flashback fades, and then it cuts back to Mr. One. Cuts back to Mr. One as he's surprised to see that apparently Zoro's back up again as he goes, Go ahead. Try to injure me. You'll never cut me if you're the one always taking the beating. Unfortunately, you're not going to get to see me cut steel. As it shows Zoro with his inhuman strength holding up a ginormous portion of this destroyed building above his head. Unfortunately, you're not going to get to see me cut steel, 'cause when I do, that'll be the end of you. Oh yeah? And then Zoro tosses this part of the whole building at Mr. One. I'll dice everything in sight. A sword that doesn't cut anything, eh? And that's the end of chapter 194. Onwards to chapter 195, and coincidentally, the last chapter for this volume. We're making some good time, ladies and gentlemen. I have plenty of time to get myself some lunch before I do the One Piece Reflections at 1. We got an SBS before we move on to the last chapter of this volume. Oda, allow me to address a question that comes up a lot. It's about how involved I am in the One Piece anime. But first, I'd like you to be aware of certain facts. 1. First and foremost, I am a manga artist. I don't create anime. Please, Lord, forgive me for I have sinned. I am sorry, I didn't mean to call it anime. Anime. Lord, how did it even come out that way? First and foremost, I am a manga artist. I don't create anime, and that's that. But I do help out with character design for original anime stories and movies based on my manga. I don't really do much. So I have to entrust the world and characters of One Piece, which I created in the manga, to other people. 2. This is one name I'd like you to remember. The one and only Konosuke Uda. This name always appears in the opening credits of the anime. He is the series director for the One Piece anime. In other words, he is in charge of everything. I don't know if Konosuke Uda is still in charge of the One Piece anime as it stands right now, because many years have passed, so I don't know. In other words, he's in charge of everything. That's so cool, series director. Ta-da! 3. The One Piece anime has 7 different directors, including Mr. Uda, and they take turns directing the episodes. That's because a 30-minute episode is impossible to make in just 1 week. A particular week's director is listed in the end credits under episode director, and the one who oversees all the other directors is Konosuke Uda. 4. If he and I didn't see eye to eye, then Luffy would immediately become un-Luffy-like, and the world of One Piece would be completely different. No matter how poignant the original story is, if the director of the anime messes up, it's ruined. But that never happens. In fact, amazingly, Mr. Uda and his warrior directors totally understand One Piece, and that is by far the reason why the anime is doing so well right now. Because you don't want people who don't understand One Piece to be in charge of anything One Piece related. That's just a recipe for disaster. We've seen what happens when you get people that don't understand source material. You get live-action Cowboy Bebop. And we don't want Cowboy Bebop. No, we don't. 5. Direction naturally includes the music, sound effects, voice acting, and art design. The whole package. So I'm very grateful to everyone involved with the anime. By the way, my editor Habu checks the script. Ooh, that's good. You get the editor for the manga checking the script to make sure there isn't any discrepancies or any plot holes that could wind up being worse in the anime compared to the manga. That's good. 6. What I really wanted to do was to call attention to the names in the end credits. I really hope you take note of them, because all of those people work incredibly hard, especially with the recent episodes we've been getting of One Piece in its later arcs. Yeah, these people have been working insanely hard on some god-tier episodes. 7. This may have come across a bit stiff, but Mr. Uda has a good sense of humor. Often after a meeting with him and the producer, who's also a funny guy, we go out to eat. But basically, for the One Piece anime, I leave everything up to Mr. Uda, and I enjoy watching it as much as anyone. Sometimes I even cry. 8. So that's it for the question corner. See you in the next volume. Onwards to the last chapter for this volume. Chapter 195, Mr. Bushido. Hachi's Walk on the Seafloor, Volume 12, Kami, the Mermaid, and Starfish Papagoo. So this is where they first showed up. Interesting. And we cut to the building being thrown at Mr. One. Fool. A sword that cuts nothing. It cuts nothing, but it cuts steel. I don't know what it all means, but to push and keep pushing, that is the true way of the sword. Atomic Dicer. And then, with one wave of his hands, Mr. One cuts apart the building thrown at him into tiny little pieces. Until I defeat you! And Zoro and Mr. One continue to clash with one another, until he manages to hit Mr. One directly in the face, causing Mr. One to stumble momentarily. And then as Zoro prepares to hit Mr. One again, Mr. One blocks with his leg. And while he's blocking, Zoro takes that opportunity to go across the leg, kind of like how Goku went across the beam shot by Kefla, and hits Mr. One directly in the face with his swords, causing Mr. One to be launched backwards. And before Mr. One can even fully recover, there's a sword near his face. Crab grab! And with like a swift motion, he causes his swords to go upwards, causing Mr. One to be tossed to the ground, which causes Mr. One to, flop a little bit and get back to his feet once more. You're an irritating man. So are you. And then Zoro watches on as blades start to appear along the length of Mr. One's arm. Don't mistake me for a swordsman. I have lots of other weapons to dismantle you with. Buzzsaws. As the blades on his arms turn, he makes full circular blades appear on his arms, and he starts to spin them, basically turning him into a buzzsaw man. If you're not a swordsman, then maybe you're an excavator. I'm an assassin. As Zoro clashes with Mr. One's buzzsaw blades on his arms. Sparks, how fast are these blades spinning? And it cuts to Zoro kind of struggling a little bit to withstand the rotating RPMs of the blades on his arms. He's gonna tear me to shreds. And then there's a moment where Zoro loses his defensive position, and Mr. One notices. Excavation work is impossible for me. I'd make too much of a mess. Blast! And then it cuts to Mr. One sweeping his arm across the chest of Zoro while these blades are still spinning. And while this is going, while a big old torrent of blood shoots out of the chest of Zoro, he gets down to his knee before Mr. One comes right in and then punches him directly in the midsection while the blades are still spinning. Now, I have to say, this moment in the anime stuck with me all of my life. Because just seeing that moment where Zoro gets punched in the midsection by Mr. One, you don't even see Mr. One's body move. You just see Zoro getting launched from a punch that goes from Mr. One. And you just see Zoro get launched. It's one of my favorite moments from the anime because it was like, you don't get more dramatic than a punch like that. So when I saw it in the anime, it was like, okay, that's in my head, rent-free now. But he gets punched massively by Mr. One, by this buzzsaw punch, and sent flying, with Zoro screaming out in pain, even dropping all of his swords. An instant's miscalculation brings death. As Mr. One turns his fingers into blade, and then he proceeds to slash Zoro and send him flying into a nearby pillar in the distance of the main streets. And then it cuts to Mr. One, who very evilly licks the blood off of his finger. And then he walks over to Zoro. You're still alive. And Zoro, still alive, is struggling to get up.
Don't turn your back on him.
You're unarmed. Why keep struggling?
Tower Crusher.
And then, with one massive swipe, X-shaped swipe in front of him, cross-shaped swipe in front of him, he slashes Zoro and also slashes the entire pillar that he's sitting under, causing it to crumble. Rest in peace. As Mr. One starts to walk away, as seeing how the awning doesn't have any support anymore, it starts to crumble right near Zoro.
I'm having bad luck with stone today.
And then it shows the rubble as it appears to fall onto Zoro. And then it cuts to Mr. One, who's walking away. In the anime, he's just walking, and his neck is just like cracking both sides. I don't know if it's cracking in the uncut anime, but it's just like he's walking away, and he's just tilting his head to the side. I never noticed that, but if that's him just tilting his head to the side when he walks, that's something he and Miss Doublefinger share. He sways his head when he walks. Miss Doublefinger sways her hips when she walks. So that's like, yeah. But he's walking away, and as he keeps moving, he stops.
I wonder if the others are okay.
And he fully stops walking, and he looks back, and we see that Zoro is standing amongst the rubble. The rubble that presumably crushed him, he's standing completely unscathed from that rubble itself. Mind you, his body is still heavily bloodied. Shocking Mr. One.
How can you possibly stand up? I cut you to ribbons. And how did you dodge all that falling rubble? Dodge? No, that's not it. I knew where the stones wouldn't fall.
Think he's cracking his neck? I think he is too.
My sword is under that rock. I know it.
And he just looks over to where one piece of rubble is, and he moves it, and he gets his sword from underneath it.
What?
I had this feeling before. Everything around me was eerily silent. My heartbeat was like distant thunder. It was like standing at the gates of Hades. The falling rocks, I could feel something alive in them. Not just a presence, something more distinct, like breathing. The rocks breathing. Trees with heartbeats of their own. The earth itself breathing. Is this it? And then it cuts back to Zoro's sensei back then. Listen, Zoro. There are swordsmen in this world who are able to not cut anything.
To not cut anything? Is that like hearing the breathing? Is this the power to cut steel?
What's your trick, swordsman? You took too many hits. You've lost too much blood. Don't you know you're dead?
I can hear it. The breathing of his steel.
All right. Fine. My next blow will put you down for good.
My sword understands my will.
As Zoro slashes through some branches, and not a single piece of this branch and its leaves get cut by his blade. But he cuts into a sword, and it splits perfectly down the middle. So he finally understands how to be able to cut what he wants to cut. Because as his sensei said, a sword that hurts all isn't really a sword.
All that's left is for me to find out whether I possess the power to cut through steel.
As he points his sword at Mr. One.
You think you can defend yourself against me with one sword?
And then Zoro just looks at him, heart pounding, face bloodied.
It's all right. I don't need to defend myself anymore. Prepared to die, eh? Suit yourself. One sword. One strike. Lion strike.
As he puts his sword behind him and prepares to draw it.
Atomic Dicer!
As Mr. One puts blades on the bottom of his feet as he starts skating towards Zoro.
Atomic Dicer!
And then in an instant, we see to cap off this whole chapter, we see Zoro behind Mr. One, and Mr. One falling as a spray of blood shoots out from his body.
My thanks. Now I'm stronger.
And then Zoro sheaths his sword. Ladies and gentlemen, the very first iteration of Itoryu Shisunsun. And that, ladies and gentlemen, is the final chapter of Volume 21. Shisunsun! Ah, such a good chapter. Such a good volume. So many significant moments from the Straw Hat crew. Nami defeating Miss Doublefinger. Sanji defeating Mr. Two Bon Clay. And now we have Zoro defeating Mr. One. I don't think there's anyone else left. Should be interesting to see how the story goes from here. Of course, most of us know how it's going to go, but it doesn't hurt to have another refresher. So to everyone here, both new and old alike, I just want to say this has been a fantastic reading. I am looking forward to my next reading of One Piece tomorrow at 12, because I'm not doing it at 12 today because I have my One Piece reflections at 1. But to everyone here, thank you for stopping by. Whether you're new here or you've been here before, thank you for stopping by. I'm looking forward to my next reading. All I can say at the end of the day is, well, firstly, it's an immense honor and privilege to be your entertainer and to do this for you. Not everyone has access to One Piece in the places that they live. Literally had a comment saying like how this person didn't remember One Piece when they were a teenager, but then they saw it again a little while on, and they wanted to read some volumes, but they didn't have volume 11 when they were going through their library. And luckily for me, I had volume 11, and I read through the entire thing. So yeah, it's just like, I feel like this is going to be good for people who want to get into One Piece, but don't have access to the actual chapters themselves, or even a way to read the chapters, aside from the places I mentioned, such as, Viz and Manga Plus, which are good places for you to go. But support the official release. But this could be a good way for people to get into One Piece who have never got into it before. So yeah, I'm just going to keep doing these until I get to volume 82. Yeah, volume 82, and read through that, and then we are done. But we're at the halfway of the halfway mark. So we're getting closer. To everyone here, all I can say at the end of the day is, hope you all enjoyed. Can't wait to see you all in my next video. And if you're new to the channel and you enjoyed what you saw here today, then like, subscribe, share this stream with everyone you know, because the more the merrier. And maybe even consider becoming a member, because I am always looking forward to entertaining you. So have a fantastic day. And once again, as always, later peoples. At least until I do my One Piece reflections at 1.